Shut up and sit down.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. This podcast kind of crept up on us. This is podcast number 100. Man, that sounds crazy to say. 100 podcasts, so like 2.5 years of doing this. I just want to say thank you so much for everybody that follows along and has been keeping up and taking this journey along with us. What a fun time. And that can't be understated any more than a big thank you to our Patreons. Patreons are basically what funds the podcast, and it doesn't really fund the podcast. It basically funds the giveaways for the podcast, but it's kind of a double-edged sword. We try to make the prizes for the quarterly giveaways good enough that they want to come back and to recruit new people. This podcast is the first podcast of the second quarter. So the first quarter we gave away the Phantom starter kit, the saddle kit, as well as subscription to Base Map and Jason Semkoviak's Master Bow Hunting course. So we'll be announcing that winner the Wednesday after this podcast comes out. So the second Wednesday in April is when we're going to be putting that out. But we've had a whole bunch of new Patreons, and this was the month of the Tims. So Tim Connor, Tim Clark, Tim Gray, Virginia, North Carolina, and then Tim Clark. You've heard that name a ton. He's the only person that we've had on the podcast 3 times as a guest. So he's following along with what we're doing. He's one of the tethered guys, and we just can't thank them enough. John Kurth from Wisconsin, and then one of the guys from our local bowman's called Ryan Schultz. So thank you guys so much for following along and putting your money up and supporting what we're doing here with the show. Another big thing is 2020. We did a pretty good job in 2019 of filming our hunts and putting that out there, but in an effort to be able to fully commit to filming for 2020, and that includes Uncle Frank, we've actually partnered with Tacticam. So Tacticam's actually got us a couple cameras, and we're going to be filming all of our hunts with Tacticams as well as our other gear. So John and I will still be running main cameras, but we'll be using Tacticams as a second angle and having Tacticams on our bows. And this will actually allow us to get some footage of Frank and Ernie, and everybody wants more Uncle Frank. I don't think that there's anybody out there that says, man, we need less of him. So that's pretty awesome. So for this quarter, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving away Tacticam Solo Kit as well as the Base Map subscription, along with the swag pack from Base Map as well. And I haven't nailed down exactly which one I'm going to give away, but we're going to be giving away a pellet grill. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of the Traegers. I just haven't got that completely narrowed down yet. But so for the second quarter, we're going to be giving away a Traeger to one of our Patreons. So you just have to go to bowhunterchronicles.com and click on the Patreon link, or you can go to patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles, and it's just like a reoccurring $5 charge. So basically, it's a $15 raffle ticket or $5 a month, however you want to look at it. You're directly supporting the show. And I don't know if you've been following along on Instagram, but our Patreons have been killing it, posting up. So every time you sign up for Patreon, every Patreon I send out a package to them, and most have koozies. And so in this quarantine time, they've just been posting up pictures of their beers or whatever they're drinking in the Bowhunter Chronicles koozies, and it's just been awesome to see that coming across our feed, and we've been trying to reshare those. And for the Patreons, we also have a private Facebook group set up, and we did our first Zoom chat because everybody's on quarantine and is kind of like everybody's kind of looking for something to do. And that was really awesome. We're going to be doing some more of those in the future, and I've got some pretty big ideas as far as getting that kind of going, and some bigger ideas to bring some other people in. But the next one we'll have Frank on, so it'll be Frank, John, and I, and then any of the patrons that want to jump on and just hang out and chat and have a beer. With that, with the base map, you can go and you can use Chronicles and save 20%. So you're getting the full base map, nationwide package now with all of the hunt data and everything from Peterson's for $24 for the year. And it does everything that any of the other mapping softwares do, just as well or better. And I mean, it's a fraction of the price, and that's pretty awesome. But this week's guest is Matt Tezak with Readywise Food. And turns out he's also a base map ambassador, or pro staff, I guess he is. He's a little bit higher up than an ambassador. And so he's given us 20% off of the Readywise Food with the code base map, and I believe it's a capital B and a capital M 20. So 20% off, and they've got plenty of inventory even through all of this coronavirus, everything. So for any of you guys planning Western hunts or anything this year, these meals are great. They sent us a bunch of them, and I've got a video that I've got to put up. John actually forgot the microphone, so the audio is kind of crummy. So I'm kind of disappointed about that, but I'll get that video up. But this podcast, Matt is actually a culinary trained chef, and he created some of the recipes for these meals, and it's a real good conversation. It doesn't just talk about the food or just talk about Readywise. It talks about kind of the climate of everything going on right now with the coronavirus, the way that people are storing food, hoarding food, all of that, planning a backcountry hunt, planning your food, and getting everything ready to go on that hunt. So real great episode, and Matt's a great guy to talk to, and all of his information is on there. But if you are looking to check out some of these things, then I'd recommend the chocolate chip cookie bites, if for nothing else, just to throw in your car to have. They're amazing, but like I said, you can use that code basemap20 and get 20% off anything on their website. So that's certainly a great deal. I know you guys are going to love this episode. Thanks for sticking around with us for 100 episodes, and here's to the next 100. We'll definitely be having some beers on the next few podcasts to celebrate all of this, like we always do. But if you're not following along with us on Instagram, please check out our Instagram. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're putting up, trying to get a video up every week now. I've got John locked down. He's not doing anything, so I got to make him videos here and there. And check that out. Follow along on Facebook. And if you're one of the patrons who's not in our Facebook group, request to be in that. It's a Bowhunter Chronicle Opportunist. It's only for patrons. I probably have like 5 or 10 people a day try to enter that group, and I have to tell them no, it's just for patrons. But there's a lot of fun stuff going on over there. So if you are a patron and you're not in that group, definitely check it out. And if you're not, no big deal. Just please, if you're listening, tell somebody else about the podcast. Share it with somebody. Show them your favorite episode. Show them the episode where Uncle Frank throws a beagle into the trash compactor. The beagle was dead, but yeah, if you haven't listened to that one, go back and find that out. But thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the episode. Hey everybody, Adam and John back with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. We got Uncle Frank sitting here. We're actually doing the first podcast from the new studio, so when the video goes up, it looks a little sparse, but it's been hectic around here the last couple days, couple minutes, couple hours. But today, we're going to actually be talking about something that is rather timely. We're talking about, it was going to be as we're headed out elk hunting with backpacking nutrition, the freeze-dried backpacking meals. But given the climate of the world today, these things are becoming a hot ticket item, kind of one of those essential items here where we'll get into that. So we're talking with Matt from Readywise. One of our past guests, Joe, a good friend of mine, he says, hey, my neighbor is involved with this company and big into the industry. You should give him a call. And that's just snowballed into, a ton of different things and conversations with Matt. So we really thank you for being on with us today, Matt. How are things out in Colorado?
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate having me and being able to talk about this stuff since it is so timely. So that's great timing on your part. Things are good here in Colorado. We have some cases. So I'm in Western Colorado right now, and we have some cases of the coronavirus here, but not too many. Most of them are up valley, so more like actually in the mountain towns like Vail, Eagle, Aspen, Silverthorne, some of those areas. And then obviously Denver has quite a few cases of the coronavirus, but nothing too major out here, but, still practicing the safe distance thing and, continue to be kind of quarantined at home just to be on the safe side. And I definitely have a garage loaded up with all kinds of products. So I think our family, not just our immediate family, but family around, if they needed anything, this is probably the central hub for food. So things are looking good here.
Yeah, John walked in today with nitrile gloves on and Lysol wipes, and he's spraying everything down and wiping down everything.
That's awesome.
It's he's measuring the new studio to make sure we're 6 feet apart, and it's just pretty wild.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, I think there is a little bit of extreme tendencies happening, and I think some of it has to do with the media. I think they've, over publicized it a little bit and stretched it some. So you have some cities that are, kind of in this panic mode. And obviously this whole toilet paper thing is just insane. I mean, between that and the hand sanitizer, it's kind of insane. But, but then there's other states that I have friends in that I keep in close contact with, like Idaho and Montana. And it's like, hey, we've got plenty of stuff in our stores. So I don't know what's going on in some of these other states, but so I don't know. It's interesting, to see the differences and hear the differences in the different states that are, either have a few cases or a lot of cases that people are just not as maybe overreactionary. Possibly.
Yeah, I mean,
so, but
I think about like when we were in Idaho and those people plan for blizzards and rock slides and, where they have to go to a rock slide and climb up it to get the mail handed over the thing. And that's a part of their everyday, a yearly occurrence. So I don't think that too much stirs them up where,
right.
The social media is going to get to them.
Right. It's not like the city folk that are.
Well, in yesterday, my wife and I went to Sam's here in town in Muskegon, and there's absolutely the bulk toilet paper and the paper towels. It's gone. Everything case wise is gone.
I was in Lowe's today, and I'm getting some wood for one of the projects I'm not working on, and they actually had toilet paper by the skids down the middle aisle. And I know Menards sells groceries and stuff like that, but Lowe's does not sell toilet paper. They might have some cleaning supplies usually, but they literally had full skids stacked down the center aisle of the store. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. But I did not buy any though.
So,
right.
so let's get a little bit of background on you, Matt, as far as,
sure.
Because it's a really interesting story, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you specifically. Because my background with like backpacking and freeze dried meals is that they're like a stopgap, so it's something that you have to eat and you just find the best one possible. And then with my history being, from the military and eating MREs is, they're not great. So you pick through them and you figure out what you will eat and what isn't necessary. And, you just kind of make do. But let's get a little bit of history on you and, your background, both personally and then into the industry, and then the history with the company itself.
Yeah. So, as far as the hunting industry side, I've been in the hunting industry community now for about 15 plus years. Various pro staff positions, currently with First Light and Base Map. So those are two of the biggest brands that, I'm out there as pro staff ambassador representing. And then most recently Quiet Cat e-bikes. So that was a huge opportunity for me also because it's a Colorado manufactured and owned company. So that made a cool partnership, me being a Colorado resident, obviously local. I grew up here in Colorado. So that was a cool partnership for me and for Quiet Cat. But in the kind of the culinary cooking food industry side, I've actually been in the food industry now for 27 years. Various brands. I sold Mexican food as, one of the sales guys, some different snack companies over the years, owned my own peanut line, called Ricky's Lucky Nuts, and ended up selling peanut, flavored peanuts. We created flavored peanuts and was messing around in the kitchen and came up with some cool flavors. And so we packaged them and started selling them all across the country to grocery stores, and then I sold some bath and beauty care products for a while. And this opportunity with Wise Company came about a little more than a year ago. They ended up getting some new investors and a new CEO. And so this opportunity was a great opportunity for me to kind of fit right into, my passion for the outdoors and hunting and hiking and backpacking and camping. And at that time, their primary business is emergency and survival. But they had just launched a camping line of the Adventure Meals. And so then they launched a snack line of freeze-dried fruit SKUs. And so it just, it made sense for me, right? I mean, because my passion is being in the outdoors. I have a culinary degree as a chef. So, I mean, it just made this perfect full circle turn for me that, to kind of incorporate all of my passions together. And so we started working on different recipes with basically all the new flavors that you guys got. We have the 13 SKUs of the Adventure Meals and new recipes that we just launched late last year in October of 2019, so we could have for spring camping summer season for 2020. And so far it's just, I mean, we're killing it. I mean, it's doing great. And it's been fun too, because now I'm doing, different things with not just the grocery stores and sporting goods stores like Sierra Trading Post and Cabela's and Bass Pro and, all of these different outdoor retailers. But, we've been able to partner up with Base Map and obviously partner with you guys. And so it's been great to just see different directions with the Adventure Meals take off for us.
Yeah. And I mean, having a freeze-dried food company in the Corona apocalypse isn't a bad thing. You say business is really taking off, but my goodness. And, so I had reached out to you, through Joe, and you said, oh yeah, well, I'll just take care of your food for your guys' elk trip. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting, because I'll be curious to see like what shows up. And I came home one day and there was a stack of boxes as tall as I was, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then right? I go through it, and then we're trying to figure out, like, you can't sit down and eat all of these at once, so we did a video a few days ago testing these out, and we just picked four. The four of us sat down and said, okay, which one do you want to try, which one do you want to try? And then we just did we tried all of them together. But I can tell you what, it makes you feel, like you said, pretty good when you walk out the door to go to work and you walk past, 7 cases of freeze-dried meals. Everybody's frantically worried about toilet paper. And I'm going, that's no problem.
Well, and I think the having that in your garage and knowing you have it as a backup for your hunting trips. I mean, not every single guy out there is doing the backcountry hunt, right? I mean, it's pretty much at this point, it's a small group. I mean, all across the country, and the majority of the guys that are doing it, they're in the West, let's say west of Texas. I mean, that's where most of the backcountry hunting is. Or you've got the guys that, like you guys, coming out to Colorado this year for your archery elk hunt, and other guys in the East, they're buying up this stuff because they want to go on their first ever, backcountry backpacking, for 5-10 days or whatever. And so it's great for me because, as a chef, I mean, I've tried all the other freeze-dried, dehydrated products out there. And, and for me, and I'm not the only one, because I get this all the time from various contacts in the industry, but they're like, dude, I can't eat dehydrated food for more than maybe a couple days if I'm lucky. And I'm like, yeah, it's because, I mean, look at the 17,000 different ingredients that's on the back of the product, and unfortunately, to make it dehydrated with some of the products, that's the way it kind of has to be, because it has a 7 to 10 to even 20-year shelf life, depending on the products that you're talking about, right? So the one cool thing about the Readywise Adventure Meals is it is lower sodium, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when, we started talking and having conversations, that the hydration piece is major. I mean, if you're eating some kind of a backcountry meal that has, 1,000 grams of sodium, or, whatever it might be, or, 700-800 grams of sodium, I mean, you're having to pound a bunch of water. Otherwise, you're just going to retain all that sodium. And so, again, the cool thing is with the Readywise meals are anywhere from like 35 to 50% lower sodium than the other dehydrated freeze-dried meals that are out there on the market today.
So, we talked about this, but it's been like 2 years now on the podcast, because we went 2 years ago and we did a Idaho trip. And what recommendations, I guess, from, with what you do now, your experience in the backcountry, as well as your culinary background, what would you say to somebody like that's for, we already talked about it. It's been a small population of people that are going to do a backcountry hunt. And so if you're an Easterner or a Flatlander or whatever, like,
right.
You're from out here, and like, these meals are anywhere from, $6 to $15 across the board. You can't try every single one of them. And if you're going to do a 10-day hunt, and you're going to do 2 of these meals a day, that's, if you get out there and you don't like it or you're sick of eating it. So these are all questions that people have when they're not readily available. How do you recommend that people would approach that and
Yeah.
as far as with their packing list and kind of how to start.
No, I mean, these are all great questions. A couple of years ago, I did a live podcast at the Total Archery Challenge, in Salt Lake, because we were all there, and, I mean, it's a huge industry, show or event, I guess, more than a show, but everybody's there at that event. And so, this was pretty much the same type of question that was asked for that. And the biggest thing, well, actually the first thing I recommend is that you better be in shape. So if you haven't started working out and you're not, building stamina, leg strength, and things like that, and getting stronger, there's a possibility it's going to be challenging for you. I mean, I can just tell you that up front, that, you have to be in shape to come west and hunt these mountains. I mean, and it depends on where you're hunting. I mean, there's some hunts that are easier than others, but, especially if you're going into the Idaho and Montana, areas that I've hunted for the last 5 years, dude, you gotta be in shape, or it could kill you. I mean, I've seen guys, they try to acclimatize the first day or two that they get there, and it still doesn't work out for them. But as long as you're in shape, that's going to be one of your biggest hurdles. On the food side, I actually recommend doing a kind of a mix, right? It's a mix of dehydrated food and real food. So I know it sounds weird and interesting, especially for the guys that are doing full blown backcountry hunts. But if you stop and think about it, you can really, if you plan out your meals, and you like actual meals, not the dehydrated meals, but if you plan out your meals and you're freezing them and you're vacuum sealing those meals, you can really make a lot of those meals that you've prepped at home or whatever it is, and you've put in the freezer because they're vacuum sealed, and you can make a 5-day hunt last out of those meals if you kind of switch it up, every now and then. Because I mean, even I sell the Readywise meals, right? I mean, that's what I do, and I still take real food with me. I mean, there's nothing better than having a real meal of, elk steak or elk hamburgers. I mean, that's one of the biggest things is that I take with us when we're doing backcountry hunts, especially in Idaho, because we do several backcountry hunts every year for spring bear, which we have coming up here in about a month. And I take elk hamburgers for at least a couple nights, so I freeze them, make them, freeze them, vacuum seal them. And I mean, they'll start to thaw out, but as long as they're vacuum sealed and you kind of protect the package, that product is still going to stay frozen and somewhat cold for the various time that you're there.
Okay. And so I guess, how do you, what do you plan for that? Or I guess, how would you prepare? So if you've for us, the three of us sitting around here right now,
Yep.
having never done that,
Yep.
how would you set up that preparation? What would you say? Okay. Cause you say, okay, well, if I'm going to bring hamburger, well,
Yep.
then what am I going to do with it? Right. So, I mean, are we bringing buns?
No,
relish?
typically, yeah, it's not anything like that. I mean, it's pretty minimalistic, right? I mean, and it depends. I mean, some guys are doing this where they're taking, I mean, everything is on your back, right? I mean, so you're carrying a 70-pound pack. Each one of you are carrying a 70-pound or 75-pound pack, and you've got all your cookware, all your gear, everything in there. The biggest thing is divvy up the meals, right? So, you're going to be making something. So like the way that I do it, or the way that we do it. So there's two of us. I've got myself. I mean, and I try to, let the other guys do this too, but most of the time I do all the cooking. So and they want me to do the cooking, right? Cause I know it's going to be good, but I'm preforming. Like I said, I'm preforming elk hamburgers. I'm vacuuming seal, so I vacuum seal it in vacuum bags, and press and seal bags, and put them in the freezer. So it's like, okay, so we get there on a Friday night. We know Friday night we're gonna have burgers, right? Because we were like, okay, well, we've made these, so let's just do burgers on a Friday night. We'll pan sear them, we'll grill them up over the fire, because I've got one of the lightweight little grills that you can stick over the open fire. And we're grilling that or something, or we're taking an elk tenderloin and slicing it up in chunks, and we're grilling that up, but all of this stuff is frozen. So it's planning out these meals. It's like, okay, well, we know, we're there for 5 days. So Monday for dinner, we're going to do, or Friday for dinner, we're going to do the burgers. Saturday, it's going to be, we're going to do the breakfast skillet, and it's just pour in the hot water and eat out of the pouch. And then, and we may do lunch or we may not. It just depends on how many miles we're hiking that day, where we're going. If anything, it's going to be more of a snack type of thing. It's going to be, I make elk summer sausage every year, and I make it in bulk. So, I mean, we've got these long sticks of elk summer sausage that, we'll take with us, and we slice them up, and a little bit of cheese, and that's probably a snack for a few days. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's just rotating these different meals, but it's very minimal, ingredients, a package of some vegetables, like maybe some peppers and some onions chopped up, and we're grilling that or sauteing them in a pan to go with some venison tenderloin, or venison backstrap or something like that. So it's more protein driven, not so much carb driven, except for we do take like little packs of almond butter or nuts or bars and things like that. But it's all pretty super lightweight. And I'm glad you're actually talking about this, because I've had some requests recently to actually do like a bag dump, that what I put in my bag for these backcountry hunts. And, even if it's like a 3-day hunt, I've had some social media requests to do this kind of a bag dump of what's in my bag. And, especially with spring bear hunt coming up in Idaho. So maybe I'll just have to make sure I do it sooner than later. And that might actually answer some more questions.
So when we went, John thought I was crazy, because I was doing a lot of, ours was all protein, and
yep.
And then I had 5 pounds of gummy bears, or I mean, at least. And it was just all of the snacking. And what's funny is, so I did my own, just because I'm cheap. I dehydrated my own meals. So I made meals at home, dehydrated them, and then just kind of rationed them out. And John had kind of like a menagerie of different.
I went and got 3 different brand packages of same dehydrated meals that you make.
Yeah.
And I tried a few of them before we left and got out there. But what we did was we packed, basically we did a gallon bag per day. And so we'd figured what we're going to do for breakfast, a couple packets of instant oatmeal. And at first I was doing like almost a keto diet. I was doing low carb and stuff, and that's what I was trying to stick to. And then we ended up talking to Mark from Exo Mountain Gear, and he had talked to a nutritionist, and he's like, "You're going to need carbs when you get out there." And that's what Adam was saying. I was talking to him like he was crazy, because he had all the sugar and garbage, and I'm like, dude. And then we talked to Mark, and I was like, I went up to the store and bought a whole case of Snickers bars and Pop-Tarts, and then I end up with
probably wrong carbs. Right.
Yeah. Gummy bears.
No, Yeah. So, I mean, so that's great that you bring that up because it is, I mean, I follow a keto diet as it is now. That's kind of my normal regimen when I'm, coming off, winter, late season and, coming into spring, I get back on a keto diet and exercise program and mountain biking and all that kind of stuff, to get back into shape for spring. But and you got to really, so understanding what the good carbs are, right? So, I mean, it could be, obviously it's not Snicker bars, it's not gummy bears, it's not those types of things. And, you don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, guys say, hey, you need sugar and you need carbs, and those are the first things that you think of. But, when you start looking and becoming very cognizant of reading labels, you'll see almost everything has carbs.
Right.
So it becomes a thing of, okay, well, what has carbs that I can, if I'm going to cook something that I know it's good carbs, it's going to give me energy and it's going to be, long lasting energy. So like rice, oatmeal, things like that. Those are the kind of carbs that you're going to want to look for when you're doing, the backcountry hunts, like, the chicken teriyaki with rice. I mean, that's a perfect example of an all-in-one meal providing protein and carbs, and then you may get back to camp. So that could be your lunch, right? I mean, you could do something like that depending on how many miles you're hiking and where you're at and, your exertion level. But, and then you come back to camp and you're like, okay, I know I've had my carbs for the day, so I'm just going to do, some straight protein or something. The one thing about the dehydrated meals is, it's an all-in-one thing. You've got your protein, your carbs, your sodium. I mean, so it's your whole entire meal right there for you. But again, a lot of guys get tired of eating this kind of stuff all the time, especially for extended days. When you start talking 5-10 days, you're going to get burnt out on dehydrated or freeze dried meals. So just having that break in between and separating the meals that, you could even do like a little bit of, I mean, your peppers and your onions, I mean, they have carbs in them, right? I mean, it's minimal amount of carbs, but those are going to provide you with the kind of carbs and nutrition that you need, especially with how much energy you're actually exerting when you're climbing mountains and, hiking 10-15 miles a day and things like that. So it's just becoming cognizant of the right, nutritional pieces to fuel what you're doing.
Right. That's like I ended up when, as I was prepping to head out, I ended up making, they call it the butthole sandwiches with, like the bagels, peanut butter, some bacon. So that had, some pretty decent carbs.
Yeah.
Had, some good fats, proteins, and Adam couldn't hardly choke them down. He said they were too dense, but I mean, I vacuum packed them, and matter of fact, I think I was even eating them on the way back home. I had like one or two left.
They're the ones that I didn't eat.
Yeah, but I thought they were great. But yeah, it was...
Actually, honestly, that's like one of my go-tos for lunch, other than like the summer sausage and cheese and crackers that I do.
Yep.
But either peanut butter, bacon, and jelly, or just peanut butter and bacon sandwiches. I mean, those are awesome because it's giving you the right fats. And that's, I mean, obviously, so you're not, the biggest thing is, guys, when they come to the West and they start doing the backcountry thing, first of all, they've never done it. So they're not really sure what to do. So, obviously there's a lot of questions involved, but I also see a tendency of guys completely overeating, right? Like the first couple of days, they're thinking, man, I'm camped out at 10,000 feet. I need to be eating, 3,000 or 4,000 calories a day. It's like, wait, okay, chill out, get there for a day or so, let your body acclimate, make sure your hydration, is on point. And then that's when you're going to start to notice, whether you should be eating more or eating a lot more depending on the kind of miles that you're hiking during a day. So and you're going to know your body over your buddy's body. What he's needing is going to be different than what you're needing. I mean, there's some guys that, dude, they eat all day long on a trail, right? I mean, they've got crap just stuffed everywhere in their pockets and in their hip belt pockets. And I mean, it's like every pocket they have something that they can grab for a snack. And it's because their body needs that fuel. But a lot of times it's also because guys just think, okay, I'm on vacation, I'm hunting. I can eat whatever I want. I'm doing what I want, and I'm just going to eat all this stuff. And that's not the best thing to do. I mean, consider the food that you take with you as fuel and nutrition and nothing else.
And so,
you know, you're basically eating to sustain your energy levels. And if you start to feel tired, then, you know, you should be eating more calories.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask is so how, what would you say is where you know that you're needing more fuel? 'Cause I don't feel like the guy that you're talking about that has food in every single pocket and is eating it every single minute. That's me. I mean, that's what I was doing. But again, that kind of like goes back to like, you know, I was conditioned like in the military, like that you might not get a time to eat. So if you have a break, if you stop, then you should be eating something, and you're gonna, and you know, so it's going to be that trickle down effect. And so for me, like my pockets always had something where if we stopped, I was eating something. And but I guess, how do you know? I mean, if you just start to feel tired, you know, I know if you get cramped up,
That's right. So, but that's also a hydration thing too. So, I mean, if you're not staying hydrated, you're going to start getting leg cramps. You're going to, you know, your body's going to start to feel sluggish, and pretty much, so it goes hand in hand, right? The nutrition and the hydration kind of goes hand in hand. And if you're not eating enough calories, you're definitely going to feel sluggish, and you'll know, like the first day you get there, you're not going to feel anything, right? Because you're amped, you're jazzed, your adrenaline's going, you're pumped up, you're ready to be there. So it's like day one, you're not going to know a thing, except for you're not drinking enough water when when you're at 10,000, 11, 12,000 feet. And so like day 2 and day 3, that's when you're really going to notice it. Because, you know, day 1, you're going to be so pumped up, and then opening morning, you get up, you get going, and you're like, oh crap, dude, I don't feel all that great. Well, one is probably because you didn't drink enough water. So you're totally, you know, just knowing that you're at 10, 11, 12,000 feet, you haven't hydrated enough. And then that next morning, you're like, okay, I need some energy. So it's probably a good thing to have like the breakfast skillet or some oatmeal or something like that, or even some granola, right? I mean, a little bit of granola, because that's going to give you great fats. It's going to give you some great carbs, but that's long sustaining energy. So it's because of the way that your body breaks it down with, you know, different, breaks down the glucose and for blood sugar and things like that. So it's kind of like a time released energy. So just understanding your body and how you feel is going to be vital to, you know, your performance in the backcountry. And then obviously there's, you know, mountain ops and wilderness athlete and ready nutrients and things like that, you know, can help for additional performance as far as hydration drinks and things like that. I use mountain ops, so you know, those help too.
Yeah, I brought it was called Recover. It was a Recovers,
Mm-hmm.
and those were great. But you know, like when we were out there, you know, obviously I'm 45, older than Adam, don't have the military background like he does, but you know, and I've always been like, I've always tried to be conscious of my nutrition and have the right fuels and stuff. And that was like, I was actually looking, like when we were picking out our meals, I'm kind of going off base, but I'm getting back to your product. When we were picking out our meals the other night, and I picked out the creamy pasta and chicken,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this one like is perfect. It's got 7 grams of fat. It's got 67 grams of carbs, but it's got 33 grams of protein. So it's like it's hitting all the bases for me. Plus, it tasted great. So those were the things like that I'd look at for like a full meal. But like when we were out there, Adam did have some of the we had the cheese and the like the smoked sausage or the hard salami, but there was definitely times where either I always have to have a ton of water. I sweat, like there's pictures of my hats, literally like there's salt crystals growing off the top of my hat because I sweat so much.
Right.
And and then so the sodium content was one thing that I was bleeding it out so fast. But then then there was another time like when we were climbing up a hill, and all of a sudden I looked back and Adam was just like all of a sudden face just beat red and shaking, and he's like, dude, I need to get some food in me. He's like, I didn't eat enough yet. And so that's just being conscious of how your body is reacting, especially, and we weren't even at high altitudes. We were only, the highest we were at was like 6,700, I think, or 6,500.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we weren't, I mean, from where we're at, it's infinitely higher than where we're at. But
we were averaging, in 8 days, we averaged 13 miles a day,
Yeah,
and
that's a lot.
And it was hot too. Like there was days where it was 80 degrees up there, and literally, like I said, I have a 2-hat system. I sweat through one, I take it off, hang it on my pack, and put the dry one on, and then hopefully that one's dry by the time this one's soaked through.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting here with, Frank's going to head out west for his first Western hunt, and all this stuff is new to him. So what questions do you have, Frank, about this whole thing? Like coming from your perspective, being the first time, kind of next older generation type guy.
Whether or not I can do it or not is one thing. I'm 67 years old, but
so you wanted a slingshot to shoot you up?
Yeah, that's what I asked one of the guys before, at ATA. I says, "Where's the big slingshot you got? Shoot me up the hill." But no, I think that it's going to be an experience, but I'm looking at this, and I told the guy that's he's my hunting partner. I says, I'm not going to go out there and kill myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to take it as it comes, a day at a time or whatever, a mile at a time or, a half mile at a time. I'm not going to,
And that's the important part, right? I mean, everybody has their own pace. I mean, I'm a fast walker, and, I have buddies that hunt with me that they can't keep up with me, and they hate that, but I'm a fast walker. But, it depends on the terrain too. I mean, here in Colorado, we have a lot of different terrain. I mean, we have high peaks, to 14,000 feet. And obviously you're not hunting on a 14er, but I mean, they're down in southern Colorado. I mean, there's high mountain peaks down in southern Colorado that we hunt that, it's granite and, straight up and straight down type of things. But, we also have like here in western Colorado, and kind of like northern Colorado, I mean, the elevation change is a little different. And you could start at base camp and you're at, 5,000 feet or 4,500 feet. And, by that afternoon, you're at 7,000 feet. So it just kind of, there's so much variance that, two things for you, Frank, I would say is, go slow and take your time. Of course, like I said earlier, when you get there, you're going to be jazzed, your adrenaline's going, you're pumped, you're excited to be there, but try to stay as even keel as possible, because the last thing you want to do, because that adrenaline will, when it wears off, you're going to feel it. You're going to be tired the next day, so, just staying kind of even keel, not over anxious, or anything like that. And then honestly, just be prepared for different kinds of weather. I'm a huge proponent of wool, merino wool, base layers, especially. I mean, obviously, with First Light, we have different, mid to heavyweight wool layers and then outer layers for, wool as well. But, just being prepared for various conditions, because I've seen it during archery season, opening weekend, it's 80 to 90 degrees, and I've had snow that afternoon. So, just kind of having that mindset of being prepared. So when I say this, I know it's going to sound kind of crazy, but so be prepared, but don't overpack.
Okay.
Right. I mean, so it's just making sure that you have the right equipment for the conditions that you're going to be experiencing. And that's why I say that if you're not using merino wool for backcountry hunts, then you're using the wrong gear. I mean, I know there might be some guys that totally disagree with me, but the huge advantage to merino is it's going to keep you warm when it's cold, and it's going to keep you cool when it's hot. And when you start to sweat, it's going to wick that moisture away, and you're going to dry out super fast. If you're using some kind of a cotton blend material or something like that, it's not going to work out for you.
Right.
And you're going to dry faster. You're going to stay warmer. It's just the materials made now for backcountry hunting, and, just the gear now for hunting is, it's a little more expensive, but again, you get what you pay for. Just like with boots. I mean, I usually take a couple pair of boots with me just to have an extra pair in case. For one, because we put a lot of miles on during archery. I mean, I go through two sets of boots in a year. So I'm buying, 2 sets of boots, brand new boots every year, for hunting, because we put so many miles on. And that starts from turkey season all the way to, late January, late season, for late season elk hunting. So, but you get what you pay for in gear, boots, backpacks.
What do you recommend for boots as far as say brand or
So,
style?
so for years I used, Danner. I really like the Danner boots. I think that for one, they're a quality product. I think Danner makes great boots. Oh man, I would say for probably 6+ years, I used the Danner Higher Ground boots. And I had a version of the uninsulated and the 400 gram insulated, obviously for various seasons of hunting. So I really like them. They're somewhat inexpensive. I mean, you can get into a pair of Danner uninsulated boots for maybe like 160 to 180 bucks. Great boot, great support, Gore-Tex membranes, leather uppers, that sort of thing. And then I recently, I would say within the last 4 years, I now have switched to Crispy, and totally love Crispy. I'm not associated with them. I love their product. I think the footbed for me, it fits great. I mean, I walk a lot of crazy terrain, whether it be in Idaho, Wyoming, here in Colorado, and I find the support is superior to the Danner boots that I've used. But it's give and take, right? I mean, you're going to have to try what's comfortable for you, because the Crispy boots, depending on the kind of boot that you go with, and whether it's an uninsulated or an insulated boot, the flexibility level rating is going to be different. I actually like the Crispy Colorados, which was a new boot for Crispy last year. And I was using the Crispy Thors. I mean, I have quite a few pair of those, and I think they're great boots, and they're great boots for early season. So, turkey, spring bear, into antelope archery season, and maybe even into early archery elk season here in Colorado. And then after that, I would recommend a little bit heavier boot like the Crispy Colorado or Crispy Nevada or something like that. Just a little more durable, a little stiffer for higher mountain terrain, rocky terrain, uneven ground, things like that.
Cool.
Yeah, I ended up going with the Crispy Thor, and that was actually
nice. Awesome.
It was kind of a mistake for me, though, coming from a Flatlander. Getting out there, it was kind of like skating for the first time and putting a pair of figure skates on.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the support, and by the end of the day, when my legs and everything was fatigued, coming back down the mountain, I ended up like rolling my ankle a couple times, and I actually talked to Crispy when we were at ATA, and he's like, "Well, this is the boot that you need then." And that was the new Colorado when they came out. He's like, "This one's got the support that you need for, off camber and all that." But,
yeah, I'm telling you that Colorado. So I tried it when they first came out with it. Well, they launched it in spring of. Actually, I think it was spring of 20. Maybe it was spring of 2018 or
2019
or fall of Anyway, it hasn't been out on the market very long, and I tried it when it first came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this boot is way different than my Thor boot, and it's a variation of the Crispy Summit. So it's basically like a reinvented model of the Crispy Summit. And oh my gosh, that thing is, I love it. I wear it everywhere. I mean, it definitely provides me with the support that I need. And there's different lacing techniques too. So if, depending on, I kind of go with a more traditional lacing technique, but, you guys might find depending on how your feet, feel and you can do this with the Thor. I mean, you can do it with all boots, but, you can do it with the Thor too, but, just different lacing techniques as far as if it feels like your, instep is a little bit too tight, you can take the top, that front lace out and switch it to the second and just do some different lacings, to alleviate things being tight around your feet and also how much weight you're carrying in your pack too. I mean, that's going to be a factor as well.
Right. Yeah. I still wear them all the time. I
nice.
just, mowed my lawn and did everything, walked around the lake. When we were getting ready, that's what I was doing and our listeners, they've heard this many times, but I would have my pack on with 40 or 60 pounds and I'd have all my gear on and I'd be out mowing the lawn, just, going up and down the hill. I'd walk the dogs around the lake with all, some people look at me like I was crazy. Then the other ones would be like, where are you going out west?
That's awesome.
And but that kind of leads me into another question. So obviously you said you get back into shape in the spring and stuff, and I've been like, I have a bad back, so I use an elliptical to kind of supplement my workout. But like for Frank, would you recommend like a stationary bike or something to help build up his wind and stamina, something that's like a low impact or
it depends. For me, I do the treadmill. I at least try to do it 20 to 25 minutes every day. And then usually, depending on my work schedule and travel schedule, I'm trying to mountain bike in the afternoon. I live, 10 minutes from a lot of great trails here in Western Colorado. So it's easy for me to hop on my bike and just hit the trails from my house.
And you can fire up that quiet
so
cat
that
and
makes
just get back that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So obviously the e-bike makes it, but I will tell you, so it's funny because I bike with a lot of guys, and the one thing that I'll tell you with the e-bike, and I love having an e-bike because the thing is amazing, but you'll end up going a lot further than what you think you're going. And you're like, oh crap, I just went like 15 miles. And, it's like, all right, well, that's cool. And, you're, kind of gives you more guts, right? I mean, you're like, okay, I'm going to go further now because you have the battery assist. And so you feel less fatigue. But the other thing too that I noticed over the last few weeks when I've been out scouting for turkeys is that I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go up over that hill. And, and I'm like, wait a second, dude. I'm like, if you would have been on a real bike, you would have never done that. I'm like, so, I was like, all right, well, that's cool. So now just remember, you got to come back down that same hill. But again, I love it. So, it's all about what works for you.
Right.
I mean, so that's the biggest thing that, I think a lot of guys maybe don't realize, or they do realize it, but they try to overdo it. And I mean, so if an elliptical works for you, Frank, or even if a stationary bike works for you, I mean, do what works for you that's comfortable for you, because don't do something that's not going to be comfortable for you, because you're going to do it. You're going to do it a couple times. And you're like, dude, this sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. And then you're going to say, screw it. And then come mid-August, you're like, oh crap, I haven't done anything now. And I'm 3 weeks away from my trip. Right. Now what am I going to do?
Right.
Right. So, I mean, honestly, and I'll be honest with you, there's no, where you guys are, because I have some friends in Michigan that came out here hunting, and I took them, and we were hunting at, almost 11,000 feet, and they hated me for the first couple of days, because we were walking, 10, 12 miles up and down cliffs and mountains. And they're like, yeah, this sucks. You said get in shape, but we didn't know it was going to be like this.
Right.
And I mean, so there's nothing that replicates the same kind of terrain that we have here in the West for you guys to try to replicate, to train with. Right. So with that being said, it's about building up stamina. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, walking, you really want to, try to start walking long distances. If you can do it on the concrete, or, from your house or park or football track or whatever it might be. And I highly recommend doing light weights. I mean, some of these guys, like the train to hunt guys and fit to hunt now and this and that, train to hunt and lift to hunt and all these things. I mean, all those things are great, because everybody, at least they're doing something to get in shape, because it can be very strenuous, especially if you get something and you're packing it out however many miles. But at least some kind of lightweight training to help build your muscles up and have some strength. I don't think you need to start doing, start with 10 pounds and all of a sudden by June you're lifting 300 pounds and I mean that you honestly are not going to get any benefit from that. I mean, so like for me, I do kind of like this circuit training regimen, and that's what I've always done. I've done, I start off with cardio, obviously, to get my blood pumping and everything moving in the right direction. And then I start doing the circuit training where it's basically I'm doing, chest, shoulders, back, and legs. And it's basically till burnout. So I'm doing like, 50 squats, and I'm doing, 50 bench presses, and, I don't know, 50 curls and, things like that. But it's all about just getting that pump, and because you're just trying to tear those muscle fibers to build strength. That's how you're building strength, right? And so if you just do that on a consistent basis, you're going to get in shape.
So I have a question for you just on that note. Is like I kind of I think part of it is because like I sweat like John's talking about,
Yep.
like so I never do cardio first. I always do cardio at the end.
Yeah.
And the reason I do it that way is I feel like the hard part's going to come after I've already done the work. You know what I mean? So I work out and like break myself down and then I run.
Yeah.
And my reasoning is that like that's when I'm really going to need it. I need to be able to do that at the end. But I was just curious as like if there was like
I like it. I think it's great. I mean, again, it's all about what works for you and you know your body better than anyone else. And so, if works to, I mean, I've seen some guys where in the gym, and obviously all the gyms are closed now, but, so you can't go to a gym. So, but I mean, it's one of those things where I've seen guys, they'll do like this weird CrossFit type of thing where they'll go and do, I don't know, 10 or 15 pushes of the big tractor tire. And then they're doing sprints. And then, then they go over and they're doing dumbbells and then they're, doing pull-ups. And so, I mean, it's just, I think that as long as you're doing something that's going to activate those muscle fibers and help building up that stamina, that's really what's going to get you the most benefit. But again, it could be that, starting cardio or weight training first and doing cardio last is better for you. This is just what I've always done. And I know it works for me and I lose weight real fast that way. So that's what I do.
Yeah. I usually just I try to do the elliptical every morning and at least 30 minutes, but I'll do it. And then I'll get up, go down, get on my elliptical, get warmed up, do my 30 minutes and then get into doing the weights. But just because I want to get warmed up and get my muscles, with a low impact.
Yeah.
Get
by all means, I profess this right here with you guys tonight that I am not a fitness expert, weight training expert. I mean, nothing. I just back in my high school and college days, I did some bodybuilding. And so I know what works for my body and how, and still at 45, it takes me a little longer than it used to, but I mean, it still works for me and watching my nutrition and, things like that. Cause the sad thing is I like food too much, right? I mean, I'm a chef, so I like to eat great food and I like great flavor and, it's actually been kind of fun for me because, with the adventure meals and having input in recipes and, taste testing those things. I know that the meals are great nutrition, and then just following a pretty strict, nutrition regimen. Like I said, I do keto. Keto's not for everybody, but for me, I mean, I'm not that much of a desserts person. So sweets for me is not a big deal. So I would much rather have more steak than a piece of cake or pie at night or donuts or whatever it might be.
Or both.
It's just, it's just what works. Yeah.
So with your, like culinary background and like with the backcountry, can you give us maybe some of like your, I don't know, maybe like, it's not like insider or anything like that, but like, what would be something that would be like a real treat, like one of your recipes or pairings or something that you would bring to go along to break the monotony or something like that, where guys that were on the hunt with you would be like, oh my God, I'm definitely doing that the next time. Because one of the things like for with the military or whatever, and like even John, like for us, like those gummy bears or that Snickers or whatever was like a morale booster. You know what I mean? So that one thing you pull out halfway through the hunt and you're like, oh my God, that's what we're looking forward to.
So one of the cool things with Colorado is there are lakes everywhere and high mountain lakes everywhere. So I always take my pack rod with me, and I would say probably 98% of the time I'll catch at least a 2-3 fish and be able to grill those up over an open fire and season those up and do a trout, whether it be a brook trout or rainbow trout over the open fire. I mean, that's huge right there. I mean, and obviously whether you're rifle hunting or archery hunting, if you get an animal and have the opportunity to harvest a deer or an elk or whatever it might be, being able to cut off a piece of tenderloin or backstrap. I mean, that is huge. I mean, guys, that's like the ultimate morale booster right there. I mean, it's like, fresh harvest meat and you did it, right? I mean, it's all about everything that you just did today or over the last several days. So I always make sure to carry some different seasonings with me, some mixture of different seasonings, salt, pepper, garlic, salt. I actually have a line of seasonings called Game Chef seasonings. So they're different wild game seasonings that are available. So we formulated some seasonings kind of specific to wild game flavors, game, fish, different elk and deer and beef and things like that. So it's those are kind of my treats, being able to cook something like the fish or even a couple years ago when I got my bear, being able to take the back straps and tenderloins off the bear and grilled those up and made bear fajitas. The guys that were with me, they thought it was awesome. And it was our first time it was our first time to ever have bear. So that was pretty awesome.
You made sure to cook it all the way through, right?
I did. Yeah. Yeah. We made sure to cook it all the way through.
You don't want to end up with the trichinosis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, which was kind of hard for me because normally I'm not a well done, burnt to the crisp kind of guy. I like my stuff, rare to medium rare, and so I'm like, oh, I think it's finally done because it's been on here for an hour. So
it was black bear, right?
It was black bear for sure. Yeah, blackened bear.
Right.
Yeah.
So kind of circling back with like the Readywise and these meals, like you've helped create some of the recipes and things like that. So what ones would you recommend for people to start out with? Or if that's the hard part, is trying to figure out. And you said one of your favorite ones is the breakfast skillet. And when we were doing our draft as far as like which ones we were going to go, that one was one of the last ones because John had tried some of them, and I've had the MRE eggs, and they taste like shit. Yep. So I was like, I'm staying away from powdered eggs.
Right. Like, and I actually still have some in my Bronc box. I still have some egg packs that I never even made when we were out west 2 years ago. But it was just but they weren't yours, obviously. They were a different brand, and I was like,
we actually do. We actually do a food bucket, or several food buckets, obviously for emergency and survival. But one of our most popular food buckets is our egg bucket, and it's powdered eggs. But our recipe for our powdered eggs are amazing, and again, there's all different types of dehydrated meals out there, and guys like what they like. But I would say that the formulations that we have come up with and that we worked with our R&D team and putting these formulations together, I mean, these recipes are pretty similar to home cooked meals, as similar as you can get to home cooked meals, for dehydrated food. And that's one of the things that, one of the things to take away from this whole thing on dehydrated, freeze-dried, backcountry camping meals is that, we are trying to create the experience that, you would somewhat be able to replicate at home because, again, we get comments, and I'm sure all the other manufacturers of the similar type of products get it too, is that, oh, it tastes like plastic, or, it tastes like this or tastes like that. But that was one of the things that, that we really took pride in and time, is to really come up with some great formulations and make it as close to a home cooked meal. Like I told you earlier, the lasagna is another one of my favorites, because definitely had some input into that recipe, and so that's literally everywhere I go, I taste test that product to different retailers, because one, I like it and I know it always comes out great, and people love home cooked lasagna. I mean, when you make lasagna or spaghettis and meatball and things like that at home, I mean, those are things that give back memories, right? I mean, your mom maybe made lasagna back in the day, or spaghetti and meatballs, or whatever it might be. So it just kind of brings this whole thing full circle to, I'm out here for 10 days and I want a home cooked meal. Oh, I'm going to have lasagna because I know it tastes like my mom's lasagna, or whatever it might be. Yeah, so I definitely recommend the egg scramble, the lasagna, the noodles and beef is another one of my favorites. Of course, I love mushrooms, and so there's mushrooms in there, so it gives it this real nice earthy texture and flavor to it. And I just think it's a well-rounded meal for being out in the backcountry and having a warm meal in the evening time, when you come back to camp. But I'll tell you, our mac and cheese is freaking awesome.
Well,
so if you haven't tried the mac and cheese yet, then you guys need to open some of that up and try it like right now, because it's good.
Well, and so like I said, we just couldn't sit down and eat all of them, and that was one of the ones that was like, well, how can they jazz up macaroni and cheese? I was real excited about the cheesy potato soup. That one was a little bit salty, but I can tell you this. When we mixed it with the lasagna, it was probably the best thing we ate all night. Just because the lasagna was a little bit spicy, and it kind of toned it down a little bit.
Yep.
And the funny thing about that, you say that beef and noodles and the mushrooms, these guys are giving me like the side eye about the whole thing, because I don't eat vegetables. I don't care for vegetables. They're not my thing. Yeah. It's more of a texture thing than it is like a flavor thing. I just have a weird like palate.
I get it. Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
But with that beef and noodles, that the chicken and pasta, I think, was the overall winner. Could have used a little bit more salt. I think we all said it was just like a little bit under-seasoned. But that beef and noodles with mushroom sauce or whatever, they were all looking at me like, "Oh, you got to try this." And we're on video doing this whole thing, and there were no chunks of mushroom or anything like that. The flavor was amazing, and so for me, everything is a texture thing. So if you can make it, if you can hide it in there and give me the flavor, then that's great. And it was a really good.
What I mean, like in that video that we did, if you like lasagna, you're gonna like this lasagna.
Oh yeah,
if you
absolutely.
like, it's like whatever. Like if you like pasta and chicken, or chicken Alfredo, people need to just try that, and then go out of the get out of your comfort zone and try something different. The lasagna tasted great. My problem, like, I have heartburn a lot, and so especially if we're coming back to camp and that's going to be the last meal of the day, and I'm going to go right to sleep, and then I'm going to have problems sleeping because I'm going to have spicy, and that's just because I'm old and
you're not old. You're just a candy ass.
But I love the beef and noodles and the chicken, the creamy pasta chicken. That was great. So
and so a couple recommendations, like on the so the other two breakfast items that we have, the apple cinnamon cereal and the strawberry granola crunch.
Yep.
So a couple things, like literally we'll take like the apple cinnamon cereal and I'll open up a bag and I'll pour a little bit of it in like a small little snack size Ziploc bag, and I'll keep some of that in my pocket because that's like so you can either add, milk to it, or you can add hot water to it or whatever and make it into a cereal. But it's awesome just to have it, in a little baggie that you can put in your hand and pop in your mouth for, a quick little crunch or snack, as you're going up the trail. So that's like your granola bar, right?
Right.
So it serves as the same purpose. And again, it's the good carbs, it's the quality carbs, and it's definitely has some of the sodium in it. It has the sugar in it, and then obviously the carbs, but it's providing all of that, all of those essential nutrients that you need, plus the texture, that crunch that, sometimes your body just craves crunch, especially when you're out there for however many days and you just want something crunchy to snack on. And so, definitely recommend trying the two cereals because you can do a lot of different things with it.
Well, again, these all showed up to my house, and I'm the gatekeeper for the entire podcast. I'm the puppet master. And I brought one of every single one of the meals that we were going to heat up and eat over in one of the granola boxes. And John's like, "What the hell is this? Like, where's the granola? Where's the apple cinnamon? Where's the strawberries? I don't see
the cookie dough bites.
Cookie dough bites
didn't make it over here until tonight, and it's an open package, so you know what's going on with that.
Right.
Oh my God, dude! I'm telling
crunching
you,
going on.
The cookie dough bites are out of this world. I mean,
they're like Captain Crunch on crack.
Yes, you know what? That's an awesome example. Yeah, I mean, those things. It's no problem for me to be sitting there and eat a whole bag myself. I mean, because they're so damn good. I mean, they're just like, yeah. So I mean, at this point, the cookie dough bites. So we have them have distribution on those nationally in sporting goods stores, and because they've been so popular, so we now are coming out with some other cool flavors that are similar to the cookie dough bites because guys are looking for they want that sweet treat after, or even women too. Hunters they want that sweet treat or snack. Whether it be during the day or they want it at night after they've eaten, or, they're just sitting around camp and they want to snack on something. I mean, it definitely provides the perfect snack option. And that's one of the things that, when you look at the camping segment in the different outdoor retailers, that's one of the pieces of that segment that lacks is there are no, there's like freeze-dried ice cream and, some things like that, but it's not all that great. I mean, so, this is just something different that provides that same dessert feel when you're out camping and playing around.
So I was just kind of curious. We've talked about out west and stuff, the hunting aspect and the backpacking there. What about like the eastern coast, like the Appalachian Trail and stuff like that? Are you affiliated with, retailers there too? I mean,
East? Yeah. No, we have distribution nationally. So,
okay.
I mean, Academy Sports, Dick's Sporting Goods. So yeah, it's Walmart, Sam's Club.
Okay.
Yeah, we have distribution everywhere. So not just in the West.
Because I think
we're based out of Salt Lake, but not just Western states.
I would think that would be a big plus out there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
John saying it's Appalachian apple cinnamon.
Apple cinnamon, Appalachians,
Yeah, exactly. Actually, no, we're getting ready to do, and if you go to our website, readywise.com, we're doing this huge promotion that we're sponsoring a giveaway for the hiking of the Pacific Crest Trail. And so it's like this 10-day backpacking trip, and we've got a bunch of different brands and manufacturers that are supplying, different gear, and we're obviously supplying all the food, and we've got a tent company and a backpack company and jet boils, doing the stove and, all kinds of goodies. So it's just some cool, PR to get the brand out there and get some more recognition of the different products that we have.
Cool.
So in one thing that I gotta ask, and it just is in the climate of today's world.
Yep.
With this, one of the things I had on my list that we didn't talk about was like the expiration dating. And so we talked to one of our buddies, a good friend, helped us out a lot this year at ATA, Brett with the Tioga Rise, and they do the dehydrated, they do instant coffee, but he was taking us through like the freeze drying and all the reverse osmosis crap that has to happen to keep the actual flavor so it doesn't taste like dirt. So with these products, and they've got a 5 and a 10-year shelf life, or like you had alluded to earlier, what does that mean? Who sets that thing? So myself, I'm a pharmacist. We do a lot of compounding, and so the rules and regulations are ridiculous to a degree. We've been doing it, like our family's been, in the pharmacy business and compounding for 30 years plus. And in that time frame, expiration dates were liberal, and then an event happened somewhere and it gets more stringent, as it should, and then things just keep happening. And so now it's a bit ridiculous. And so I have to tell patients, like, well, the law says that I have to tell you this, but 30 years ago, 3 years ago, this is the way we used to do it. So with this dating, in the climate of today, what does that really mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, it's the same kind of guidelines for food, right? I mean, we're definitely regulated by the FDA. And then, depending on whether our products have meat, I mean, obviously most of them have meat products or soy products or things like that. So, we definitely have strict guidelines too, as far as what we can put on for expiration dates. And, like the backpacking, the adventure meals, I mean, they have a 5-year shelf life. Or freeze-dried fruit items, they have a 3-year shelf life. And then when you start talking about like some of the emergency food buckets that we have, and obviously these products are sealed in bags, they're vacuum sealed in bags, they're flushed with nitrogen, so that also helps shelf life as well, flushing the bags with nitrogen and then vacuum sealing the bags. And then we're sealing them in these different buckets and totes and things like that. So, that helps. Obviously, no oxygen or air is getting in any of those products. But, I too would say, hey, this meal, we have to tell the consumer that, hey, it has a 10-year shelf life, but in all honesty, we've done different R&D testing to where, we are given the guidelines from the FDA and what we can legally say to the consumer and package on or stamp on the product. But there's products that we have that, are 15 years old that they're still fine. And I mean, obviously there's going to be, if the package is not open, I mean, there's going to still be some breakdown, because you and I've kind of talked about this, chemical makeup and breakdown and consistency of some products. So, I mean, there's going to be some breakdown, but if the package isn't opened and it's been sealed and stays sealed and that bucket's completely sealed, I mean, it'll last for 25 years.
Yeah, I got your packages here. You're going to want, if you really want a long shelf life, then you go with like the lasagna or the noodles and beef, because the ones here are good till 2035.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the creamy chicken and pasta is good till 2026. So the chicken must have a lower shelf life or something, but the 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we're going to be worried about that one.
Yeah, no, and again, especially with all the stuff that's going on right now around the world, because it's not just in the country, it's the whole entire world. I mean, everybody's going through this thing, and having that long shelf life, and I think it's a comfort zone thing too, right? I mean, I walk into a grocery store here in Colorado, and the entire and that's what I find that's somewhat so funny about this whole thing. And I mean, it's not funny, and I'm not trying to make a joke about it, but people aren't thinking about this, right? I mean, they're going in and they're buying all this food, and I've seen people in Sam's Club even here where they bring their entire family in, and they've got like 3 carts for an entire family, and there might be 4 or 5 people in that family. I'm like, wait a second, dude. I'm like, that salad or that bag of romaine lettuce that you just bought 2 or 3 of, unless you're eating salad every single day for the next 5 days, it's going to go bad.
Right.
It's not like you can freeze lettuce, and it's not like you can freeze a lot of these different things. And I'm like, you're just buying because you're in a panic mode right now. And that's the thing that, I mean, even like fruits, right? If you're not taking those fruits and if you're not like dehydrating and you're not making dried fruits or different things like that, I mean, half the fruit that you buy anymore in stores, by the time you get it from the supplier and it gets on the store shelf, it's already, maybe has 20 days shelf life on it if you're lucky.
Right.
So I mean, it's just people are just buying because they're in this panic mode because they don't know what's happening, and they literally are just overreacting to some of this stuff, because the sad thing is a lot of that food's just going to go bad, and they've just not only have they wasted money, but now they've bought so much of it that maybe somebody else could have bought some of it. So knowing that we have the kind of meals that we have available, whether it be on the survival side and our survival backpacks, or in our emergency food buckets and things like that, it's not going to go bad for 20 years or 10 or 15 years, is I think for a lot of people, and obviously for the ones that are preppers, is a pretty cool thing, and definitely a peace of mind that, hey, like when you walk into my garage, I have like a whole entire top shelf of food buckets. And some of my friends have come into my garage and they're like, "Are you preparing for the apocalypse?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, if it happens, I'm ready." Right. So it's like, well, hey, it's, I know it's going to be good for 20 years. So why not? Why not have it?
Yeah, there's none of us like that sitting at this table.
Right.
I'm everybody's panic buying all this stuff, and I'm looking at solar energy and like other sorts of things, because I'm like the rest of it is gonna like work itself out. I've already got that sort of stuff taken care of. We've kept you here for quite a while, over an hour and a half now. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, just because you've got your culinary background, we talked about it before, I'm going to ask you this question. With turkey season, I want to know a whole bird recipe. So not just the breasts, not just, rip the drumsticks off, throw away the, when you shoot a wild turkey, for anybody who hasn't eaten one or tried, I guess, because it's kind of like the big bucks, right? You're getting the old version of the animal,
Not so much in the spring. I mean, honestly, so here's the difference, so you can, and I think that most states are like this, but spring turkey compared to fall turkey, little different. Spring turkey for toms or jakes, less fatty, obviously they're, getting all worked up and they're getting into the whole mating thing for spring. So less fatty, but I'll say depending on whether you're hunting spring turkey or fall turkey, the biggest thing that I get, and I see this, I mean, literally my social media has already started blowing up, guys asking me for, spring turkey recipes, and it happens every year, is that the biggest mistake people make when they get a turkey, whether it's spring or fall, is one, they don't pluck the bird right away. So they don't dress out the bird and they don't pluck the bird right away. Huge, huge, huge key. I mean, just like when you're hunting big game, dressing out a deer or an elk, I mean, getting that hide, getting it dressed out and getting that hide off is a huge key to that meat tasting completely different than leaving the hide on for several hours. So it's the same exact thing for poultry. Get that game or that bird. You and I've even talked about grouse, right, Adam? I mean, same thing.
Yep.
It's, whether it's grouse, whether it's pheasants or ducks or geese, I mean, getting those feathers off and getting everything cleaned out as quickly as possible, because I mean, those birds are holding in heat just like we do, right? Just like humans and just like big game. So, getting it plucked and dressed out. And then the biggest key before you cook it, 24 hours the day before you cook it, is you're brining it in a solution. And typically that solution consists of sugar, salt, water, and fruit items. So, I mean, like for me, I have big buckets. They're a bucket that 5-gallon bucket that you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's. I have several of them here at my house, and I use some. I mean, they all have different uses. Most of them are for pellets for smoking, but I have ones that I use for food. And I do so it's 50% sugar, 50% salt, and then warm water. Let the water, stir the water around to dissolve the salt and sugar mix. And I usually use like a combination of oranges, lemons, and limes, squeeze them in there and then let them set. And then what that's doing is it's just providing, basically you're tenderizing the bird, right? You're adding moisture to the bird. You're tenderizing it with the citric acid, and that bird is just pulling in all the moisture from the salt and from the sugar water solution. And I'm telling you, it's literally, I mean, if you've ever cooked a bird and it's been dry, it's because you've overcooked it and you've cooked all the moisture out of it. I mean, obviously, that's why it's dry. So if you start adding moisture to it before you cook it, it's going to stay dry.
And so Frank,
I mean, moist.
Stay moist.
Yeah. So and Frank and John, maybe they've got more insight into this, because before I married into this crazy family of Grizzly Adams and his band of merry men, I never turkey hunted. So, we just would, basically now we cooked. I shot a bearded hen. We cooked the legs on that one, and but we just take the breast and deep fry it basically. So what has been your issues with cooking whole birds, or like the?
I've done whole birds before, but we've done them in cooking bags, in the oven.
Yeah,
and I thought they were great. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't. Some of the leg meat and the thigh meat, that stuff is a little tougher, but a little darker too than people prefer.
Yep.
But
wild bird is dark.
Right.
It's pretty much all dark meat. Yeah.
But I've really never had an issue, as far as flavor wise or anything like that. And if, like say, if you do them in a cooking bag, they're tender. They're plenty tender.
Well, cooking bag is, I mean, basically a cooking bag acts as convection, right? I mean, that's what it's doing. I mean, the process is the convection process that, it's just this circular motion of moisture and continuous heat. So, I mean, that bird is basically being basted in its own juices, you know, the whole entire time. So yeah, that's a great way to do it.
So one more question I always ask our guys we're interviewing, what's your bow setup and you know, the whole thing?
Yeah, so I actually am using the new Elite Ember, and I have all the CBC products, the custom bow accessories products that is part of the Elite family. So I have the sights. It's a 5-pin sight. And man, what is my release? My release is a Scott release, caliper release. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, my quiver's the CBE, quiver, four arrow quiver. And then, CBE torque, stabilizer is the stabilizer that I use.
All right. What arrows are you shooting?
Element archery, with dirt nap broadheads.
Okay.
And it kind of depends on, so I get this question as well all the time, as what, you know, the arrows that I use. So honestly, it depends on, what I'm hunting, whether it's deer, elk, or turkeys, or antelope. So typically for, typically for antelope and deer, I use a micro diameter, arrow, which is the Element Storm arrows. And then for, turkeys and elk, I use either and I know this is going to sound funny, they're either the Quake, arrow from Element Archery or the Typhoon. And the reason I go back and forth is because it depends on the conditions. So I carry all those arrows with me typically, you know, even if like I'll carry them in my truck and depending on the weather conditions. So it could vary anywhere from a 300 grain, 300 to 350 spine arrow. And it'll depend on if it's storming, if it's windy, if it's raining, snowing, and I'll go with a little bit heavier arrow, you know, depending on the condition, or lighter arrow if it's dry and, you know, hot in the summertime. So, and that's just kind of the setup that I've always done. That's worked pretty well for me. And then the dirt nap broadheads. So I've got just the regular DRTs, and, I have those set at 100 grain. And then I have the turkey, broadheads that are the dirt nap DRTs.
Yeah. Those are Adam's favorite.
Oh, they will destroy a decoy. Let me just tell you right now, they will deflate
they're
brand new
crazy.
Avian X
decoy. They will destroy it.
Yeah, I typically don't target shoot with those, because I did that into mine and it destroyed my block target. So yeah.
Oh no, this wasn't target shooting. This was hunting.
Oh, you shot your decoy. Oh shit!
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
On video.
We had it on video.
It's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
He shot right through the bird's wing and then smoked the decoy.
Yeah.
And then the turkey ran off.
Nice.
John had to
So
epoxy the decoy.
You got the decoy. You got the decoy, but you didn't get the turkey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Shot placement was amazing.
Yeah. Tag soup was really tough that year.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'd love to connect with you guys, what you're doing for your Colorado archery hunt. And, you know, definitely if you have any questions for the gear setup, just, you know, let me know and walk through some stuff with you too. So,
yeah,
perfect.
I mean, like I say,
I'm sure Adam's going to be out there knocking on your door when he's there. So
yeah, me and Joe will be over there like, Matt, can Matt come out and play?
Oh yeah, yeah, dude, yeah, no, that's easy, no problem.
Yep, and Frank's
neighbors. So
Frank's going to be out there a week before I get there, and a week after I leave. So, and John's headed to Montana. So, we'll see. He hasn't.
Right on.
He's waiting for the Corona.
Well, yeah,
peak and ebb and flow for.
Yeah. Well, I just got done canceling my Florida trip, and then with all the stuff that's going on, I had to cancel my boat that I've been looking forward to having for a week and going deep sea fishing. And then I got online and I went through the whole process to get my tag, and I'm doing the big game combo and then with the points and all that, and it comes out to like $1,200, and I was like, maybe I should just wait till I have until April 1st to put in for it.
Yeah.
And then I was also looking, like our tags in Idaho were 600.
Yep.
And then the tags,
Colorado
tags.
Yep.
But I have a buddy that lives in Bozeman, so I kind of.
Well, I haven't heard of anything yet. I mean, I stay pretty close to Colorado Parks and Wildlife and Idaho Fish and Game, and I haven't heard of anything affecting any of the hunting seasons yet.
Right.
Not to say that's going to happen. The only thing that I have heard is different trailheads that where there's like lots of congregations of people and things like that. There are specific trailheads that are being closed or being shut down, that were basically mandated because that's a popular trailhead type of thing. But I can't see, and God, knock on wood, because it would suck if that did happen. But, I can't see that them canceling hunting seasons,
right.
Because of this, and most of that stuff is going to take place in, other than like spring turkey and, spring bear season in different states. I mean, all those things are coming up rather quickly, but, the rest of them are August, mid to late August and September. So I think that things are going to start to see a down cycle at that point. At least I hope so. And that's what I'm praying to see, but
I'm hoping that's going to happen.
We'll see.
I was just more worried about like we were talking earlier, people are panicking, and it's, they're saying it's going to get worse before it gets better. And, it's like right now, my wife's shop, as soon as they get one episode of this, they're shutting down. They're closing the doors. Right now, they're running at like 50%. So it's like, I'm looking at, I have enough to survive on, right now for money wise and stuff like that. But if shit really hits the fan, I can't really justify putting $1,200 into a tag that, is several months away.
No, I got you. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of where it's at here in Colorado, is if there's 3 cases in the area or whatever, then, a lot more businesses are going to start shutting down. I mean, small businesses have already started shutting down for the most part, but there's larger businesses that have still remained open, but it's getting to the point where I think they're not even wanting to stay open just because of concern and things like that. But, it's definitely, I mean, just from our standpoint on the Readywise side, I mean, we definitely have seen an influx, and the demand is so huge. It's been hard for us to keep up with the amount of orders that we have been getting, at this point. But, it is going to get worse before it gets better. And, the week before was bad. Last week was worse. And I think that, the next couple weeks are going to be even worse.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, on that note, I mean, you said you're running 24 hours. We should let you get back to work.
Yeah.
We're just sitting here hanging out.
Yeah.
But
no, it's all good, guys. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And where can everybody follow along with everything you're doing, and how can they find if they're interested in Readywise meals, or at this point, not the necessarily adventure, because everything's an adventure, but the emergency preparedness side of things too.
Yeah, so a few different options. So it's readywise.com is our website that you can find all of our products, emergency, survival, and camping and snacks. And then as far as for me, you can follow me on Facebook at Matthew Tezak at facebook.com, and then Matthew Tezak on Instagram. And that's pretty much it. I don't really do Twitter or any of those I don't have enough time to do all the other ones, but, those are the two that I'm posting recipes and, adventures from my scouting trips and hunting trips, and, just general, tips and tricks and things like that I post. So, I appreciate everyone following me.
Awesome, man. Right. Really appreciate it. And I think
that's
you bet,
all we guys. Got. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And thank you. And hit me up if you have any other questions.
Yeah, we certainly will be in touch.
Awesome, guys. All right. Sounds good. Thank you, and have a good night.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up and sit down.